It's showtime.
Hello, welcome. If you're new here, please subscribe, click the notification bell, share everywhere, including your YouTube community tab. Please and thank you. And thank you for clicking on the video. Let's begin. I think at this point with this theory, when Martin tells Boyd there's darkness in the forest, nightmares you can't begin to imagine, things we were never meant to see. Just kind of looking at all of the different movies that are both science fiction and horror. And the only two things for me that seem science fiction and horror that would be nightmares that we were never meant to see. One of them would be Hellraiser and the other would be Event Horizon. There's probably other ones that I haven't seen. You can let me know in the comment section if there's a movie where it's both science fiction and horror mixed together. But when I think of the two main ones that a lot of people remember or know about or have seen that are popular, not the low budget ones, but the ones that a lot of people have seen, it's Event Horizon and Hellraiser. And I don't think Hellraiser would necessarily be an inspiration for making nightmares in the forest and darkness and all that. I think it'd be more along the lines of Event Horizon, especially since Event Horizon takes place in a hellish dimension. So we're going to look at a couple of brief clips of Event Horizon where you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, and then we'll get into the theory. Viewer discretion is advised. This is for mature audiences only. All those images was basically the crew of Event Horizon. There's like two different crews. There's the original crew of the Event Horizon that open up a portal to a hellish dimension and they get sucked in and a lot of horrible things get done to them. And then there's another crew that was kind of like tricked into finding the Event Horizon, and the captain of the ship experiences seeing visions of what the original crew went through. So the doctor who created the Event Horizons, like hyperdrive, and I'm probably butchering the plot, but the doctor who created the hyperdrive, he became somewhat like controlled by the ship itself. And when the captain, who's played by Lawrence Fishburne, is talking to the doctor, and Lawrence Fishburne's character is saying, "Oh, well, this is hell" or something. And I'm butchering it. I'm butchering the whole thing, because the main thing I just want to kind of highlight is just the images that I just showed. But the captain is at hell, and the doctor who was possessed was like, "No, hell is just a word. It's something you have to experience." So with all those images that I showed you, it was basically people being transported to a hellish dimension where you're tortured in ways you can't even imagine. Now, with the creators of From being inspired by a lot of science fiction movies and science fiction genres and horror, I imagine that Event Horizon might be one of those things that they tap into. I could be wrong. I mean, you know, it's a stretch, it's a yoga stretch, but I imagine that the darkness in the forest, nightmares you can't begin to imagine, are probably fueled or created from the nightmares of people in town.
Come on, man. It's gotta be something.
Even if you get me free, then what? I don't think I can make it to town.
I don't think I can make it to town. I think he's meaning that in this theory, and I still think that Martin and right now Boyd are in the future. Martin is talking about how time is where he is at in the future. And things are so bad in the forest that just traveling the forest day or night, in this theory, in my opinion, is detrimental. Martin doesn't believe he's going to make it to town because there's so much evil stuff in the forest. It's that bad.
Carry her. Huh? Once we get back to town, we got people, a doctor. She can help you, Pete. Look, you see this? I found these in the forest. They protect us. Keep us safe. They won't be able to hurt you there.
You think those things that come out of the forest at night did this? They're just the tip of the spear.
Boyd, he can see and hear the music box, and of course, so can Martin.
time, Boyd. There's darkness in the forest. Nightmares again, even begin to imagine. It's like you were never meant to see things that... You have to get out before the music stops.
Martin made a deal with Boyd. If I help you out the well, you have to do a favor for me. When Boyd first came up, Martin was like, terminate him. Yeah, Martin had no interest in getting free. He wanted to be terminated. He told Boyd, even if you get me free, I can't make it back to town. And now he's telling Boyd basically to save himself. Whatever they are, Martin is terrified of them. So terrified he wanted Boyd to end him. And I think the Music Box Monster is more like a beacon, because when the kimono woman was holding Elgin underwater in the tub, the music box was right there. And I think the music box had summoned the kimono woman. And to a certain extent, I believe that the music box monster, because it was imprisoned in the lair, that maybe the man in the yellow suit imprisoned the music box monster, because maybe even the music box monster is more powerful even than him. So I think the music box is just like a cursed object that has a demon within it. No different than like Annabelle, the rag doll. A demon is possessing the rag doll. You can't just simply destroy the rag doll, because that would release the monster inside of it. So the rag doll is actually a necessary thing to imprison the demon inside of it. And I think the music box is the same way.
You ever wonder if Abby was right?
What'd you say?
What if it's all just a dream?
Martin knows about Abby and knows about Julie just because he's in the future. The same way Abby visited Boyd towards the end of season 2, she also visited Martin while they're in the future. So Abby probably has been trapped in Fromville. Same way she was able to talk to Boyd, she also more than likely talked to Martin. So Julie was hearing their screaming while she was in town, and that's what made her want to use the Mary Jane to drown out their voices. So in addition to her having the ability to story walk, she can also hear stuff throughout time. So right now, Julie is story walking to the past. Ethan and Julie, who's on the ground, they're able to go into the forest safely, navigate it with no problems. I think in the future, and I'm going to show you this in a minute, the reason why Julie was running frantic in the forest is not because she was necessarily looking for Jim, trying to save his life, because she says, I think this is when it happens. I think Julie was just running from the nightmares in the forest, as in stuff comes out during the day. Because why would she have scratches on her face that have not been tended to if she got the scratches at night, but she's in the forest during the day? She more than likely would have got the wounds tended to, or tended to them herself, and you would see a Band-Aid on her face or something, as opposed to her running in the daytime and now a scratch on her face.
You'll have to climb!
All right, so now Julie is in the future. She's basically, we'll just refer to it as Martin's future. Martin is like Julie, as in he knows her, but it's almost as if he can't really recognize her. And I don't think it's because his eyes aren't what it used to be, because he's seeing her from such a long distance. I think it's because Martin is used to seeing the future Julie that looks slightly different and older than the current Julie that we know seasons 1 through 3. So to him, he recognizes Julie. This is what I gather from his tonality. He recognizes Julie. She looks kind of like different, and that's why he's like, Julie? Now, a lot of you all said in the comment section that he didn't sound surprised or anything. I mean, his facial expression seems like he's surprised to see her. But surprised to see her, and he knows her because he met her in his past, Julie's future. He met her. He's surprised to see her. It's a stretch. Maybe it's a yoga stretch. He sounds surprised to see her. I think that he knows her because he met her in his past, Julie's future. Further cementing the theory that Martin, Boyd, and Julie are right now in the future. The dungeon's in the future. The ruins are up top right now. The ruins and the dungeon are two separate places. It's just the ruins can allow you to teleport into the dungeon, like a secret entrance, as if it's like the Legend of Zelda.
How do you know my name?
He needs the rope.
How do you know my name? Martin, being rude, won't even explain how he knows her name. How rude.
Unfrickin' believable.
Please.
Who is that?
You have to hurry. He'll be back soon. I think he's referring to the man in the yellow suit.
Okay?
Thank you.
Who's down there?
You need to leave. It isn't safe here. Go!
One thing that's odd is he wanted Boyd to free him, but he's telling Julie, who could have ended him. She turns back, and so in this theory, we know that this is the past that she's in because both of the shackles are loose and intact. And remember, Boyd had broken the left one, and I know it's possible for something to be repaired. Just fixing the shackles, I really don't see anyone really fixing the shackles. I mean, it's possible. I just think that it's just not probable, and that right now she's in the past. So you see how she walks through the door in the dungeon. She walked through the door, and now she's in the tunnel. This is why I say that the dungeon has to be underground and connected to the tunnels, because there are no tunnels above ground. And when we see the ruins, there's no damage or anything from anything being erected from the ground. So because she walked right out the dungeon door, the only door in the dungeon, and walked directly into the tunnels, the dungeon's got to be underground. So even though we can see her, we'll barely see her, it's supposed to be understood that it's pitch black and there's no light. Even though there's a camera guy there and there's a little bit of visibility as far as light to be able to see her as an actress, it's supposed to be understood that it's completely dark right now. So she's in the past. Right now, she's in season 2, episode 1.
What's going on? Where are we?
Underneath the town. This is where the monsters live.
That's why we can hear Victor and Tabitha's conversation, because Julie's down there, season 2, episode 1.
This is where they sleep. That can get us out.
What? Mom?
I think that Julie saying mom, Tabitha sensed it. And that's what prompted Tabitha, once Victor broke down and was scared from seeing Jasper, that's what prompted her to figure out which way to go. And Tabitha was able to exit the cave, exit Plato's cave, if you will. She exited the cave and went back into the forest by hearing Julie's voice.
Mom?
It's still pitch dark. She can't see anything. The lighter didn't work.
Mom?
Now she's all the way in the past, where the teddy bears were originally sacrificed by the townspeople. it's almost like Julie can sense them, not just hearing them, and it's like hurting her ears, but she can almost sense them, and it's making it harder for her to walk and move forward. If they would have not pulled Julie out, Julie would have stumbled into the area where the teddy bears were being sacrificed, and she probably would have like interacted with them. And I still believe that Julie's going to try to story walk again. She's going to interact with the children, and she's going to be the one to tell them about something to give them hope. And they're going to pour that hope into the roots, and the roots will create the symbol, and the symbol will create the faraway tree. Victor was wanting to chop down a faraway tree. The boy and wife showed up, told him to stop, and told Victor that the trees are important. I guess he was trying to roast the boy in white. You look different.
You suck.
Victor's telling the boy in white, you've changed, as in you've gotten older. Victor has been there like at least 40 years. The boy in white has stayed the same. The boy in white's getting older. The boy in white responds to Victor, everything is changing now. Here's what I got to say about that. I think that something is different about this cycle as opposed to other cycles where the forest is changing. Remember, the boy in white looked around, everything is changing. Even the boy in white is changing. Something has happened to trigger that. I don't think it's Tabitha and Jade remembering who they come from, because that happens at the end of the season and the changes is happening now. The only thing that could justify Fromville changing is Sarah. Sarah being able to hear the voices. That and Boyd finding the talisman stones. Those two things, maybe some other stuff I missed, is what's different. Maybe even Victor's existence. Though all those variables, I think, is different now than previous reincarnations, because it can't be Jade and Tabitha doing anything because they don't really remember who they come from until the end of season 3. So it's got to be Boyd with the talisman stones, Sarah being able to hear the voices, Victor surviving a massacre. So with everything changing, this is probably the pivotal point where the forest goes from being something where you can navigate it safely, no problems during the day. At night, you got to worry about the creatures, which are the original townspeople and all that. I think now what's different is those events, and now the forest, as it's changing and the boy in white are changing, so are the bugs, darkness in general, and maybe even the trees. So in the show, there's only been 2 instances of people being in the forest at dark and spending the night. Boyd and Sarah in the tent, and Jade, Christy, and Kenny being in the log cabin. So while Boyd and Sarah were in the tent, they were dragged to a spider's nest. I think the trees dragged them to the spider's nest, which is why you hear all that rustling of trees and everything, but nothing actually grabbing the actual tent. As in, the trees may have the ability to move stuff without actually touching it. And in this scene, while they're in the cabin and they're hearing the thumping, look at Jay. Jay's looking to the left, not really paying attention. I think he missed his cue in the scene. But Christy's looking up. But no one's really saying that there's anything on the roof. And now Jade is kind of reacting, looking at Christy. Christy's looking up at the ceiling. Kenny, he's looking up. In the opening, they have lots of shots of trees. These shots of trees are different than the trees that we see in the actual show where people are navigating the forest. These trees are thicker. They seem older, and the branches seem more menacing. They even seem like they're kind of like they have hands. And I think that in the future, Martin's future, Julie's future, the trees are going to look like this, where they're going to look more menacing. They're going to be having hands as branches, and they're going to be more free to do stuff such as grab stuff, cause damage, and even hurt people. In this scene, the thumping that they're hearing outside the log cabin, I think the thumping that they're hearing are the trees actually moving as if they're walking. But these trees are kind of like babies. So they're walking like this is all theory. I know it's a stretch, it's a yoga stretch. These trees are more like toddlers, whereas when moving Sarah and Boyd, they were kind of like pushing them from tree to tree to tree, playing hot potato with the tent with Boyd and Sarah in it. All theory. They're playing hot potato, and that's why Boyd and Sarah were bouncing up and down or bouncing around in the tent like that. Whereas now the trees are actually using their roots and getting up and walking and making a thumping going around. I know it sounds crazy. But to me, that's the only way that we have this scene where Julie's face is scratched, but the rest of her is fine. This is season 3, episode 10, where we have a tree leaning over, trees going in different directions. And it seems at first glance like something plowed through and knocked the tree over, or maybe weatherization hit the tree and knocked it over. But I'm thinking that at night, and here goes what it looks like a root coming up from the ground from this tree as if it had been walking. I think at night the trees had the ability to actually get up from their roots and actually move around. And that's why Victor tells Ethan in season 1, 4 inches. The trees moved 4 inches. Because for the trees to actually move, and think about it logistically, and hear me out, I know it's a yoga stretch, but for the trees to actually move logistically, if you're not going to move the entire ground, or move the entire earth, for a tree to actually move 4 inches, the tree roots would have to become like little legs, like we see right here, and the tree would actually have to like stand up on the roots and actually be able to physically move. And I know it sounds bizarre, it sounds weird, but Victor said 4 inches. Okay, and I'm gonna show you that clip in a minute. So when Julie first starts off in the scene, she's running and she's yelling for her dad. She doesn't know where he is. Then she says, I think this is when it happens, wanting him to go back to town. It's during the day. Why go back to town during the day if it's safe? And I think it's because Julie, future Julie, doesn't find her father deceased when his body is discovered. Someone else does, and people don't really tell her much information. But she knows that he was in the forest. So I'm thinking that she believes that things in her future are the way it is right now in the present, where there's stuff in the forest that can mess you up during the day, including the trees. Now, we know that when it comes to the man in the yellow suit, he likes to go for the jugular. We know when it comes to the creatures, they like to go for the organs and the blood in your chest, and they'll even run and get you on the ground. The music box monster, maybe they summon the kimono woman, and then the cicadas, they go inside of you. We have not seen anything that actually is nefarious or that can cause damage to people that just messes with your face. I mean, the creatures did mess with Randall's face. They did cut him or whatever, but they left an impression. I think the only thing that could cause Julie to have scrapes like this and for her to survive are trees and their branches. As in, maybe the faraway trees are no longer just sitting there, either making noise, causing trauma like they did to Victor, or you go through it, you go somewhere else. I think the faraway trees and the other trees in the forest, they're hostile to anything that's not organic to the forest, as in the humans. So for Julie to be in this scene and story walk, I think she went through a tree. The tree was hostile to her, scratched her face, and now that's how she's able to end up where she's at. Because with her story walking, unless her ability is magnified or she gets better at using it, it seemed like her story walking was confined to the ruins and going to the dungeon. We haven't seen her story walk anywhere else. Maybe season 4, season 5, we'll see her story walk at other places. But for right now, it seems like to get to the past or the future or wherever, using faraway trees. And if the trees including the faraway trees, or maybe just the trees in general, are hostile to humans, that would explain why her face is scratched like that. And she's telling her father to get back to town because there's darkness in the forest, nightmares you can't begin to imagine, things we were never meant to see. All right, here's the scene that confirms that when Victor was doing the pace counting from Colony House to the forest, he counted 4 inches.
4 inches.
What?
Trees, they move 4 inches.
So 4 inches may not seem like a lot, but it's a lot for a tree. For trees, now he's not talking about one individual tree. He's talking about trees. For the trees to move 4 inches, I think in the past, like season 1, 2, and maybe 3, the trees, well, we'll say season 1 for sure. In season 1, they were, because things are different now, the trees were learning to be able to move just inches. And by the end of season 1, the trees are able to move their branches to swat the tent with Boyd and Sarah in it to kind of like play hot potato with every tree to push them all the way to the spider nest. And then by season 3, the thumping that we're hearing is the trees walking around like babies. So by the time we get to the future, because the rumor is that From's going to do a time jump between season 3 and season 4. In this theory, if the time jump is true, the time jump is going to be where they go from being babies to being, we'll just say teens, maybe even adults, depending on how much the time jump is. And if stuff grows fast like Smiley did in Fatima's belly, it's possible for them to become full grown to where they're looking like the trees I showed in the previous shot, where they're like big and they're thick and they're like adult sized trees. Whereas the trees in the forest or things in the forest require blood, just like Smiley did in Fatima's womb, to become fully grown. And if you think about it, what shot did we see where it didn't make sense what was going on, but we're seeing blood being spilled down?
Doing good.
This is where Jade basically tricked Jim into doing all the dirty work or doing all the heavy lifting. To try to put the antenna on top of the tree to get reception. Jay puts his hand onto the same tree, and now he's having a hallucination. So blood is coming on his hand. He sees the blood.
Oh, Jesus.
So I've had millions of theories. You have too. Probably other content creators, maybe even yourself if you're not a content creator. We've all had theories as to what this is. I don't think this is necessarily how, in the past I said in a different theory, this is how you kill the creatures, but I don't think these are creatures. I think these are actual soldiers. And I think the whole purpose of this, of stringing them upside down in this theory, the whole purpose of stringing them upside down like this is to have the blood seep onto the tree and onto the ground to grow the forest. So the same way that Fatima drunk Elgin's blood to grow Smiley to full size, and she also gained his power to see stuff, and that's how she saw the townspeople who terminated their own teddy bears. I think that blood is used to not only help the creatures get full size in that situation, but to also have the forest and the trees grow faster. And that's what this is. There's someone attempting to have the trees and the forest grow full size and get darker using blood. Same way Smiley was growing to full size. I think this is what this is blood is being used to grow the forest so they can become fully grown in nightmares. And it would make sense the man in the yellow suit is doing this. Now, this seems to be taking place in the past. And I think what's going on is that in the past, this type of stuff was done, including a past version of Jay drinking blood to gain power and everything. I think that Fromville is kind of like in cycles. And at the end of a cycle, if something doesn't happen, everything resets. So the man in the yellow suit needs certain conditions to happen, perhaps to be free from Fromville, and he can like maybe run amok in the regular universe outside of the nightmare dimension that they may be in right now. Because according to Dale, and I think this is true, they're in a pocket universe. So they're in a pocket universe. To exit this pocket universe and get out of Fromville, and maybe even to have a lot of stuff released in Fromville, this may be a part of the ritual to have the forest in Fromville become full size or full powered in order to break the barrier and it be like hell on earth, Armageddon, or just a hellish plane, if you will. I think that's what's going on with this, is that this right here is someone hanging these people upside down to use their blood to make the trees grow faster and make the forest become more demonic than it already is. It looks like they've been gutted, watering the ground or watering plants with blood. And there's the symbol. Maybe the man in the yellow suit was able to use that hope and that power that created the symbol and created the Faraway tree to corrupt the trees to make them now lethal towards humans. Maybe someone who made a Faustian deal. Maybe he made a deal with the man in the yellow suit to like win the war or to have everlasting life. And that's the reason why he's slowly turning into a creature. He looks like he's starting to turn into a creature, maybe season 4 or 5, that this guy made a deal for everlasting life to win the war or do something associated with the war, or maybe he just wanted power or something. He made a Faustian deal where he may have sold his soul. In addition to getting everlasting life, it turned him into a creature no different than the creatures on the show. Yeah, now he's a super soldier. So a lot of yoga stretches with that. A lot of yoga stretches. So what do you think? Let me know in the comment section your thoughts. Thumbs up the video. Share your social media. Subscribe. Click the notification bell. Thanks for watching. Go forth, do great things, and I'm out. Peace.
The future's not